Welcome back and thank you for keeping it KTN News Centre. Time to look at what President Uhuru Kenyatta had to say, and he asked the Minister of Education to review the delocalization policy that has raised controversy within the teaching profession. Now, the President said his administration recognizes education as an important chain in the development of human capital required to realize the country's development agenda.
As indeed you have noted through the theme of this year's conference, parents too have a fundamental role to play in ensuring the success of any education system. I call on you to continue engaging with parents and students through fostering open lines of communication. Engagement with parents and students goes a long way in unlocking disputes and releasing tensions that understandably build up in the micro-communities that are our schools. And to this end, I join the Cabinet Secretary in congratulating the Catholic schools, because even during this particular period where we had some unrest in a number of schools, your schools had the fewest cases of unrest throughout the country. Parents should not see schools as institutions or as institutional foster parents, i.e. a place to dump their children and have others raise them on their behalf. Parents should take an active interest in all facets of their child's school life, and the school administration should encourage and facilitate this active interest. Delocalization program has created some unforeseen challenges that have in some instances affected some teachers' families.
All right, that is what President Uhuru Kenyatta had to say about the delocalization policy of the Teachers Service Commission. But let's have a look at a Twitter poll this morning. And I ask you, do you think the crisis meeting between TSC and the unions will avert the teachers' strike? I repeat it again. Do you think the crisis meeting between the Teachers Service Commission and the unions will avert the teachers' strike? Our Twitter handle at KTN News, my Twitter handle at Zeda Brand. I'm seeing so much of your feedback, but I will sample them later on. Let's continue having this conversation on our social media platform. And just to remind you, we are having this conversation with two gentlemen. One in our Kisumu studio, that is Zablon Awange, the executive secretary of KUPPET Kisumu County. And in our studio here, we have Andiwo Obondo, who's education policy analyst. And Obondo, you've heard what NAT has to say. What do you have to say about NAT's demands and KUPPET's demand?
I think from where I sit, the demands are genuine. And any employer like TSC should be able to listen. What I think matters is how do we discuss and negotiate. Well, all the issues they are raising are issues that are critical to the sector. So how we sit down and talk about them as a country is what matters. And I think this is where I see the biggest problem with leadership of TSC, because it doesn't need it didn't have to take the president to intervene when teachers have problems that they have complained about since January. What we were expecting is that TSC would have started discussing the issues teachers were raising, because the issue of transfers started in December and January this year. Teachers raised some challenges they were facing with this, but TSC decided to close their eyes until now, when the unions threatened to go on strike. So I think we need to be able to have a responsive teacher management framework where any complaint from the teachers, TSC should be able to have a way to listen to the unions and also try to solve the problems early enough without waiting for the strike to be called. Okay.
And why do you think NAT and KUPPET union officials are opposed to the move by the TSC to meet the Secondary Schools Heads Association first? Because as you've heard from what Awange has said, they fear that it might water down their demands.
Yeah, I think I would agree with the unions, because unless TSC is meeting the head teachers heads on a different agenda, they cannot discuss labor issues with head teachers, because head association is a professional body of school managers. Unless they are talking about how they are managing their schools and how they maybe can be able to help them manage teachers, that is a different story. But on labor matters, I think TSC must just come out and genuinely engage the unions, because the mandate is very clear. These are groups that have different mandates, different roles, clarified either in their articles of associations, but also in the constitution. Okay. So I think the unions are right, and I hope that TSC is not talking about labor matters with the head teachers. Labor matters, they should directly engage the unions and genuinely engage so that we find solutions. Because what might be happening is that in case they want to use the head teachers to either water down or scatter the industrial action, it means that they are going into this discussion they have called this morning with some mischief. And if they are not genuine, both parties must be genuine so that from the dialogue, we can be able to find lasting solutions to this problem.
Okay, and I'd like us to cross over to Kisumu County, where Zabulon Awange is, just to know what he has to say about delocalization, because Awange, just recently, President Uhuru Kenyatta said that TSC needs to review that delocalization policy because it was going to affect families that already the loved ones were transferred. Do you think it's a high time to drop that demand because the president asked TSC to review that policy?
In fact, the president did a very, very good thing. There we laud the president. He is very, very on the spot on what we were demanding. He knows and understands what we were affecting. The problem is that the people mandated with the responsibility at the TSC and even the ministry did not understand the causes, the delocalization. Sometimes we had to use the analog of the rhinos. The rhinos were delocalized from Abadeas to Savo. All of them died, 11. What about if you delocalize somebody who is almost retiring? A teacher who is old, you are removing him from Kisumu, you are taking him to Cabernet. Sometimes he's going to start life afresh as a bachelor. It is not only about the issues of the family, it is the whole management setup. It's true that the family was the first to be affected because the family is the smallest unit in a society. But then there is that larger unit, the education, the community. When you delocalize a teacher, a head teacher, you have not delocalized the support staff. You have not delocalized the teachers. You have only uprooted a teacher from one place to another place. And there is that culture shock. We say that we are not against teachers being transferred, but the relocalization that TSC muted was done in a haphazard manner. It was done in a punitive way, and up to date, we know of schools that are still having problems, are grappling with the problems of delocalization. That is why you see even the national schools were affected by strikes and unrest, something which was unheard of before. We also know a situation whereby a school has just to interdict 5 teachers. Like yesterday, you find Miwani boys had to interdict 5 teachers because the principal is just barely 2 months and is yet to accustom with the locals and the parents. So the parents are up in arms, the teachers are up in arms, this general setup is having a problem. So delocalization, if it is done in a human manner, whereby somebody requires promotions, there is a place where TSC has done well, we have got no problem. Whereby you find deputy principals have been, people have been promoted to be deputy principals elsewhere. So it's you to refuse that promotion. But that is vertical promotion, vertical transfer. But the issue of lateral transfer, somebody 60 years old, is almost approaching 60 years, is being delocalized. We are saying that this issue of delocalization is being used in lieu of disciplinary measures. If a principal has made a mistake in one particular place, deal with that principal there. Do not transfer it. This culture of Kenya, where somebody has messed in one parastatal, is being taken to another parastatal, is very wrong. And it's being transported to education, whereby a principal embezzles funds in one school, and then the solution, instead of, because TSC is yet to develop a manual, based on the new CBA of the discipline for the principal, you find that the principal is being removed, let's say, from Migori to Kisumu, let's say, Miwani. And you find that is another problem. If a principal has done a problem in a particular school, deal with them there, interdict them there, sack them there, but not to delocalize. When you delocalize, you are transferring a problem. You find most cases of delocalizations were teachers who are having problems within their schools, or they have been in a school for so long that the academic standards was going down. And we are fearing even in Kisumu, because some policies that the government comes with can be used against us. It can be used as a dumping ground. In Kisumu, it can be used as a dumping ground for favorable heads. You saw in Bungoma, You saw in Bungoma where the whole governor had to lead a protest against a principal who had been posted to a school, S.A. Kamusinga, because the school where he was coming from, the mean was very low. You remove a principal who has a mean of 2 and you take him to a school which has been getting a mean of 10. It is like removing a coach of, let's say, Gor Mahia, and you take him to go and coach Manchester United. You know, those are two different. There is league. You must look at the league. That is why we as a union, we are saying delocalization must be looked at afresh. When it is promotion, whether it is punitive. And it must be halted, particularly in this third term. Because we are seeing a situation whereby it is being used to punish people. We are using a situation whereby it's being used to dump, fallen heads or heads who are not performing. And this might be worse in third term. So we are saying that we are meeting the TSC with open hands, and they should not meet us with some cards under the table. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Zablon. Obondo, you have heard what Zablon has said.
Yes.
He says that there was no plan at all. Do you believe there was no plan? And what do you have to say? Did it have to take the president to issue that directive to TSC?
I think that is where the problem is, that there's a problem with leadership of TSC. And if I were the president, after making his statement the other week, he would have found out from TSC why TSC had to sit for almost 9 months. Teachers are complaining and they're not listening. If there was a plan, this plan ought to have been discussed. And I think that is where also the problem is. There might have been a plan or a policy, but in the way it was delivered, it was very haphazard. Because you don't wake up and issue teachers, particularly if it is mass transfers. Because transfer in education sector, like any other sector, is normal. Moving staff from one station to the other is normal. But when you want to do a massive movement, and also I think, as Zablon is saying, it appeared that they were using this as a way of either punishing or sending some statement to teachers that were not performing or had issues in management. They would have done it in a way that they would have communicated the plan to the unions and even the heads that say, because of ABCD, we are going to have this program running from this time. And I also agree that sometimes when you do this, you must be considerate to the state of the teacher. If somebody has 2 years to retire from service, and that means is close to 60, I think it is a bit disrupting to move that teacher from one county to the next to start life again. I think they would have been considerate, and then this would have been implemented in a way that they respond to the issues and the needs of specific teachers and specific schools.
And now that the president has, directed TSC once again that they should review this, do you think both unions, because both unions have the same demand, do you think they need to drop that demand?
No, they don't need to drop the demand. I think you only drop the demand after you have negotiated an alternative. What if because we are not going to stop transfer of teachers. What this should be able to give, the opportunity that we have now, is to agree on a policy that is going to be more long-term. A policy about transfers and a teacher management policy that the unions support. And I believe that when they meet today, that should be the focus. Now that, for now, it should be suspended. But it is something that should not be just left because President has said stop it. We need now to take advantage and see what were the issues and where did we go wrong. What do we need to do right? And what do we need to do moving forward into the year? So I think what we need to do is use the space to start discussing a robust policy on how we manage teacher transfers.
Okay. And teachers' unions say that teachers have not been promoted despite having attained higher education qualification. But TSC says promotion will not be based on higher education qualification. It will be based on your performance as a teacher and your work experience. But unions say it is about your higher academic qualification.
I think from education management point of view, I agree with both of them for this reason. One, yes, we want to encourage our teachers to increase or improve their skills and knowledge. If you don't encourage teachers to go back and look at new material, we are going to have a situation, what we had in the 70s and 80s, what we were used to call teachers use the yellow notes. You use the notes that you had 10 years ago. I think TSC must get a way of encouraging teachers to go back and refresh. We are calling it retooling of teachers. If teachers have taken initiative to go back to school and reskill themselves, I think that should be appreciated, that should be recognized. But again, that is not enough. We need also to look at performance, because having a certificate or improved qualifications is one thing. Delivering the curriculum is another. So I think we need a hybrid. How you've been able to improve your knowledge and you have higher certificates, but how is your performance in managing the school? How is your performance in delivering the curriculum? How is your performance in managing the classroom? Okay. And I think we need a mix. So I would think that even on that particular matter, both parties, TSC and the unions, need to have a middle ground. We must recognize teachers who have taken an effort to go back to school, but we must also be able to say that alone is not enough. Are we delivering what Kenyans expect to deliver as a teacher?
Awange, just to bring you into this conversation, what are you going to do as unions in terms of this when it comes to promotion of teachers? Because on one hand, NAT and KUPPET say that teachers have high academic qualifications, but they've not been promoted. On the other hand, TSC maintains it to be about your delivery as a teacher, but not about your academic qualification. Are you going to sort of have a middle ground on this?
You know, it's only the TSC. TSC is the only employer that does not consider academic empowerment as a basis for remuneration. In the Western world, we have a situation whereby if you get more certificates, you are recognized. This one can help in stemming staff turnover. What we are currently having is mobility of teachers. Teachers getting higher education, then moving out. We as a union, we are envisaging a situation whereby somebody can have a PhD and can still teach comfortably in an ECD. We are envisaging a situation whereby somebody can have a PhD and still feel comfortable in a primary school. But what we are seeing is people get degrees. You are a P1 teacher, you have gotten masters, but you are just left where you are. We are in secondary school, we are having people with doctorates, but they are just where they are. So what happens is that when they get greener pastures, they move. We have been losing very, very good teachers. It's true that academic qualification is not, it does not mean that it is delivery. But academic qualification means expansive of knowledge. Even in the universities now, they have put about that you must have a PhD in order now to be promoted. Otherwise, they will just say that even a master's is just enough. But we are looking at a situation whereby the more you read, the more you understand that discipline, and the more you should be remunerated. Actually, in other sectors, you find that it is the employer who is financing even that education. But in the TSC, we have been downtrodden as teachers. We must struggle and we must fight for our rights. Even if we are saying that they are not going to promote us, but they should look at a way of retaining. It's not just a matter of employing the staff. It is about retention. On one hand, they are crying that the money for employing new teachers is not enough. They are also crying that we are having teacher shortages in the country. It's true we are having teacher shortages. So if we are having teacher shortages, what is the solution? One, the solution is we retain the teachers that we are having, so that if you are a Form 1 class teacher with a doctorate, you can continue being there rather than going to moonlight in the university. The same TSC has barred teachers from moonlighting. So you are underpaying this person with a master's or doctorate. You do not want this person to go and do other things. You do not want this person to even open business. Those are some of the raft of policies that TSC came up with that we had to. In fact, there was another one that they didn't even want teachers to marry from their own staff rooms. Whom did they want the teachers to marry? We were asking them. If you don't want a teacher to marry a teacher, you want teachers to marry who? It is people who meet wherever they are working. Doctors meet with the nurses. Journalists meet in the newsroom. We even have somebody and a wife presenting news in Citizen at night. But in teaching, they were putting about on teachers having. So we are saying TSC has been intruding into the personal lives of the teachers. Okay. They have even put some...
Okay, thank you so much, Awange, for that. Obondo, yes. And now teachers are they're saying that they need a new CBA, but this is a KUPPET's demand because NAT doesn't have this demand of a new CBA. Is it the right time to ask for a new CBA?
I think what I get from the demand by KUPPET is to begin discussions early enough to avoid a crisis management style of doing things. Because I think the problem we had with TSC, they would drag and start the discussions towards the end or when the other CBA has ended. So if the KUPPET demand is to begin to start talking early, I agree with them. But I don't think they're calling for a replacement of their ongoing CBA. What I think they're calling for is a discussion that is given enough time, because, you know, labor negotiations drag and take time. So I think what I would want to suggest or advise COPET is they could be able to prioritize their demands. We look at what is immediate that we need to deal with now. One of them could be the promotion, one of them could be the localization, and then how they help the country go through the exam period from next month or next term. Then they begin to say, we have a timeline. Within the next 3 months, let's focus on dealing with the urgent issues. Then maybe beginning sometimes next year, they have a timeline with their sister union, NAT, and TSC to begin discussions so that they have enough time to sort out all the issues that they want to see in the subsequent CBA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awange, just to bring you into this conversation, how sure are you that TSC will not shelve your demand for a new CBA and just, focus on what they would say is the most important thing, promotion of teachers and, of course, delocalization? They might decide to shelve this issue of a new CBA.
It will be the most unfortunate thing to ever happen because we, as a union COPET, we are alive to the fact that the CBA is running up to 2021. As we are alive to the fact that CBA is running to 2021, we do not have to wait until 2021 to discuss a new CBA because the current CBA has been faulted, that it has a lot of discrepancies. Case in point I'm going to give you. In Kisumu County, you can find 2 schools separated by a fence, getting a house allowance of difference of 15,000. That is very, very wrong. Discriminative house allowance. 2 schools separated by a fence, Aria and Amemsha. You can say Alliance and Kisumu Day. Magadi, Sentagasi, Magadi, and Kisumu Poli. So when there is a discrepancy, there is discriminative house allowance. There is the issue of ordinary teachers. The ordinary teacher in primary school only got 1,000 shillings. The ordinary teacher in secondary school only got 2,000 shillings. And then you want to say by the end of that CBA, you would have gotten 2,000. But when the media puts it that the teachers are smiling all the way to the bank, they are looking at that lump sum increment. They are not looking at what is trickling down to an individual teacher. So what we are talking is about that individual teacher. What does the teacher get? The teacher is smiling all the way to the bank. What happens is the teacher frowns all the way to the bank. So when we started discussions early, today is 2018, that is 3 years, we are saying, as we are discussing discussion, we are going to look at the factors, the people who are not factored in the CBA. We are going to look at the allowances in bigger municipalities. That is a key issue. Bigger municipalities, I'm talking of Kisumu, I'm talking of Mombasa, I'm talking of Nakuru, Uasin Gishu, Kisii. These are 5 municipalities whereby 2 schools separated by a fence are getting a difference, a house allowance difference of 20,000. TSC is aware of that. The government is aware of that. We have complained for the last 3 years. Nothing is happening. Okay. These are issues that must be ironed out.
Okay, Awange, and just to ask you this, why call for strike towards the national examination? Because both unions usually call for strike towards the national examination. Are you trying to untwist the government?
Remember that Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education, through our chairman Omboko Milemba and Secretary General Akelo Misori, we had said that we are not going for industrial action. We are giving the TSC and the government a chance for dialogue because things that we are demanding can be sorted out on the table. However, the problem is that we are working with the government, we are working with a commission that is not alive to these facts. A commission that when you call a meeting will now call the meeting for Kenya Secondary School Aid Association. So it is a divide and rule tactic. This divide and rule tactic is what we don't want. They should come to the table with open hands. We are coming with open hands. So sometimes when this such a happen, we say we revert back to what is guaranteed in the Constitution, that industrial action is guaranteed in the Constitution. It is part of our rights. But then we do not want to go that direction. What we are having now is talks. Let these talks with the open heart. Let us give and take. Let us accept that CBA was faulty. Let us accept that delocalization is wrong. Let us say that TPAD has made teachers more of a clericals, clerks than teachers in class. Let us look at the holistic issues pertaining to a performance appraisal. Then we say, you take this, we take this. Then we can avoid the things that are happening. What is happening currently in the education sector is that we have been treating the symptoms. We have not been preventing We wait, we do delocalization, then we wait for schools to ban. Then again, we want to blame teachers. We are waiting for exams to come, then we'll blame. This issue of blaming can be stopped by preventing it. And prevention can only be stopped by sitting together on a table with open hands.
Okay.
This issue of divide and rule is what is messing the education sector.
Okay, thank you so much, Awange. We have been speaking to Zablon Awange, Executive Secretary of KUPPET, Kisumu County. And Obondo, why call for a strike during this time should TSC, NAT and KUPPET fail to agree? I mean, it's just a few months before KCSE and KCP candidates start their national examination.
Yeah, I think I agree with Zablon, yes. Yes, the teachers have a right to picket and even withdraw labor when their grievances are not addressed or listened to. But the timing and the issues sometimes must be looked at. Because I know the timing probably could be like you are suggesting. They could be want to get a way of being heard. I think they're doing so because they have not been able to get an audience from TSC over the past months. So the timing to me is bad, and I would plead with the unions that if they want to go on strike, let them genuinely get into this dialogue and give it time. Because also a genuine dialogue does not take 1 week. We agree TSC has made a mistake to sleep on the job until 1 week to the strike to call them for dialogue. They could be able to delay and give sufficient time for these negotiations. I believe if they said, I'm not sure whether KUPPET has called, but I think KNU might have called the strike, they could be able to say, can we put on hold? Because that will also be a show of goodwill. Get into this with some goodwill, and then you say, let us talk about the issues and give ourselves time to discuss the issues genuinely and agree. Whatever we agree on, we put aside and implement. Whatever is outstanding, we are able to agree on how do we deal with them. The issues are genuine. I think in that I don't dispute. Okay. But I think the timing is something that either as parents or as Kenyans we think. They may want to think about the timing of this.
Okay. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us here in studio. We have been speaking to Anduo Obondo, who's an education policy analyst. As you can see, he's in our studio. And, of course, Zablon Awange, who was speaking to us from our Kisumu County offices. Zablon Awange is the Executive Secretary, KUPPET, Kisumu County. Thank you so much, Awange, for just giving us your sentiments when it comes to the education crisis that the country is facing right now. Just to remind you that yesterday TSC met the Kenya Secondary Schools Head Association. Today TSC is meeting NAT, and tomorrow TSC is expected to meet KUPPET union officials just to try and iron out some of the issues that they have raised, starting from delocalization of teachers, promotion of teachers. KUPPET is asking for a new CBA. There is also issues of salary. They want to have a levelized payment when it comes to teachers. So this is a developing story, and of course we shall continue keeping you updated as to when we get the latest development. And just to remind you also that this morning our Twitter poll question is, do you think the crisis meeting between TSC and the union officials will avert a teacher strike? Do you think the crisis meeting between TSC and union officials will try and avert the teachers' strike? Our Twitter handle at KTN News, my Twitter handle at Zeda Brenda. So much of your feedback. Let me just sample too, then we take a short break, then we shall be right back. This is Bunguchu Agre, who says, it may, though delocalization is not the major issue. Medical allowances should be reinstated. Why two medical schemes are teachers being treated on? Then he says that teachers need to be promoted or otherwise. All right, this is some of your opinions. Lots and lots of your feedback. Let's continue to have this conversation on our social media platform. And as you can see on your screen, it is we need to give you the aerial shot of Bungoma County. Such a beautiful county right there. I mean, an indication that also people of Bungoma are getting us very, very loud and clear when it comes to matters affecting also that county. Aerial shots of Bungoma County. I'll leave you those aerial shots of Bungoma County on your screen as we take a short commercial break.